a little break from football, and we will do it with a very sharp NBA basketball mind. He is Zach Harper, writer for The Athletic. Zach, what's poppin'? How are you, sir?
Oh, my God. I'm living the dream. How are you guys?
We're doing all right. Let's start with the whole – I knew, Zach, at the beginning of this whole thing that the Dame saga was going to drag out for the majority of the summer. People have sort of stopped talking about it on both sides, so it hasn't really been in the headlines. But ultimately, how do you see this thing playing out? I saw that the commissioner spoke and kind of talked about how he hates these holdouts or demanding trades, and Harden's got his own situation talking in China about how he'll never play for Daryl Morey. But how do you see specifically the Damian or the Dame Lillard situation playing out?
Well, first, are we sure Adam Silver hates this, or does it get people talking NBA in a time where they normally don't, which is good for business? Because
I believed him, but you might be right.
I don't. I just don't. Like, I'm sorry. Like, any publicity is good publicity, and aside from like horrendous crimes, like the transaction has become so big in sports and especially the NBA that it fuels a 12-month season instead of like a 6-month season. So I just don't buy stuff like that. But to actually answer your question, I kind of just think he ends up in Miami, right? Like, stars usually get their way. He still doesn't have like this horrible relationship with the Portland Trailblazers. Like, I get it. There's been a little bit of, bickering back and forth through the media, and Dame's side is leaking stuff. The Blazers are leaking stuff. And it just ends up being which side do you want to support more. So if you don't want stars doing this, then yeah, like, you're going to take the Blazers side. And if you don't like teams, not doing right by players, or however you want to phrase it, then you're going to take Dame's side. But ultimately, it seems like the leverage is to eventually get him to Miami. I think that it's complicated because the Blazers don't have a need for Tyler Hero, and they don't seem to value paying him $120 million over the next 4 years, which I get. I don't think that's necessarily a wrong way of looking at it. So you got to involve a third or fourth or maybe in a 15 to get the right machinations there. But I think ultimately he ends up where he wants to go because stars usually do.
Zach, something arose this week that Sacramento Kings fans definitely know all too much about. Buddy Hield contract negotiations stall. Buddy Hield asks for a trade out of said place. Where do you see Buddy possibly landing, or some possible landing spots for Buddy Hield if he's moved out of Indiana?
Yeah, I don't. I'll be honest. Like, I spent the last 2 weeks in Japan on vacation, so
that sounds awesome.
It was incredible. I haven't been too plugged in with too much. I tried to detach, so I haven't really talked to a whole lot of people. But I did see this, and I think everyone kind of saw this coming, right? The Pacers have a need for him, but not like a long-term, we need to invest a lot of money need in him. And if you look at it, I wrote about this for The Athletic today, of Buddy Hield is one of 8 shooters in NBA history to make at least 1,700 threes in his career at a 40% or better clip. It's like him and Ray Allen and Stephen Clay and Dale Ellis, and I think Kyle Korver's in there, and Peja Stojakovic, and maybe one other person I'm forgetting. But like, he is an elite shooter. Everyone knows, like, he can really fill it up, and he's averaged almost 18 points a game over his last 5 years. Like, he's really good. Now, he doesn't do a ton else for you, but shooting has become such a premium. I look at a team like Orlando, who's got a lot of flexibility. Toronto, who badly need. I mean, Toronto was a really good team last year that just could not make shots.
Yeah.
And I know they changed a little bit with Fred VanVleet gone, but they desperately need a shooter. Houston would have been a great spot for him, but they spent all that money this offseason. They have kind of a logjam there. I'd like to see someone like San Antonio go after him and space the floor for Wembanyama. Like, I think I don't know how many teams want to acquire him and give him $100+ million over 4 years if that's what he's looking for. But I don't think it's a terrible idea to get him to kick around a long-term contract. And just, I mean, like, he can really shoot it, and that is something that is just an incredibly valuable skill right now.
We're talking to Zach Harper. Check him out on Twitter at Talk Hoops. Can't believe you got that handle. You must have got in there early, Zach.
Way early, real early.
Yeah,
like unhealthily early.
Yeah, no, that's a great handle. Check him out on The Athletic. He's got all sorts of podcasts at Count the Dings, Sirius XM NBA, all sorts of stuff. Plus Cinephobe. He's a movie guy. Unlike my partner, Chris Watkins, he's a movie guy. Let's talk about the Kings. We're up here in Zach, and what exactly did you make of the moves that they made. I know there were some Kings fans that wanted them to do more with the cap space that they had, but they brought in Sasha, who they had the rights to. They just added JaVale McGee to kind of shore up the backup center position. Duarte, I think, is an underrated move, but they mostly just went with, we had a fantastic squad that finished in the 3 seed, and they're going to be a year better. What do you make of the Kings offseason, Zach?
I like it. You know, like I think in the past, the Kings, as you guys well know, the Kings have been so scatterbrained and easily distracted, and like, oh, not everything went exactly according to plan, so let's change this, let's fire this coach, let's do this, let's bring in this group of players. Like, you know, they seem to have settled into obviously the most success they've had in a long time, and it was an incredible season. But I like the idea that they didn't panic or feel like they're closer than they are. Like, I think it's important to look at that team and say, all right, now we know this is a good team, right? You hoped last year going into the season it was a good team. Now we know it's a good team. So what do you need from there? You need continuity. You need more time in the system. You need time to actually learn defense from Mike Brown, who's an excellent defensive mind, right? Like, they got by purely on offense last year, which is fine. It brought them success, but now they need to learn a balance. Bringing in Sasha, we tend to freak out a little bit too much about EuroLeague MVPs, right? Like Nikola Mirotic and guys like that. We're like, oh my God, he was the MVP of the second best league in the world. So let's bring him over, and he's going to be an incredible impact player. And they don't tend to be that. But I think with Sasha, you look at that and like, he fits so well into what they do. They don't need him to come over and be a EuroLeague MVP. Like, that dude can just flat out shoot the ball. He's a smart player. I don't know how much freedom he'll have to really explore his game at the NBA level, but he's a guy that impacts the game without dribbling. And I don't want to make the comparison to Klay Thompson because that's way unfair. Like, Klay Thompson's a Hall of Famer, and I don't think you can put that. But you see how a guy can be so impactful on the court when everyone is afraid to just let him touch the ball, and not even what he can do with it in dribbling. It's just like, he catches it, it's going up, it's going in. I think there's incredible value in that. I like the McGee addition, although I thought he was going to have a nice impact in Dallas, and he was horrible for them. So hopefully that's not past the prime. But I love the idea of just like, we like our group. We're going to see what grows out of that. We're not necessarily competing for a title right away. We're not trying to make that big leap and disrupt chemistry. We're just going to be what we are and see where that goes.
Zach, last season, the Pacific Division was the Western Conference 3 through 7 seed. And I look at the Lakers moves this offseason. The Warriors obviously shook things up a little bit over there. The Suns are a completely different team now. Do you see any clear favorite or any clear worst team in the Pacific Division, or is this going to be pretty much something that we just got to roll the ball out and see how it ends up playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the Clippers, just because you don't trust them to be healthy ever, right? Like, I think you could put that, them as that, but even the Clippers, if they are healthy for any given stretch, sometimes look like the best team in basketball.
Right.
Like, that's just, it's an impossible division. And I actually think it's good for all teams in the division to have to deal with that so much throughout the year, because it prepares you for the playoffs better. It prepares you for going against tougher opponents when that's what you seem to face all the time. I think, a team like the Grizzlies in the Southwest, like, yeah, there are a couple of good teams there. You have a couple of good teams, consistently in the Northwest Division, but for the most part, you're kind of getting fat on weak opponents half the time. And yeah, that helps your record and helps seeding and everything, but it doesn't help you for the long term. And so I just think, like, this is the division of, like, anyone who's on the East Coast. I've lived on the East Coast a little bit throughout my covering career of the NBA. What a miserable way to do it. Just the worst time zone for sports, bar none. And the fact that people aren't going to stay up and watch this division every single night, like, you're doing yourself a disservice. Move out west.
Be smarter about basketball and follow Zach Harper at Talk Hoops. Always appreciate you taking some time out, Zach, to talk round ball with us. But before you go, I think I've asked you before, but I've already forgotten. Why in God's name do you have Rasheed Wallace as the 4 Mount Rushmore people as the background of your Twitter?
The greatest personality in sports history.
Oh, so
it's
good.
It's like him 1 and Muhammad Ali 2. And like, I love Rasheed. My ultimate, like, dinner party would be just Rasheed Wallace talking to Rasheed Wallace. Like that is
wow. You have him that high, like above Barkley, above Allen Iverson, above
any interview you ever see. Like he is the realest, most incredible, most fun personality ever. Like I am all Sheed ever.
Okay, so you have like basically the Dylon, and it's all Rasheed. Well, does he have a podcast or something? Why is he not in our stratosphere?
He was doing something with Bonzi Wells for a little bit, which also is just an incredible pairing. But I don't know how. Like, I think he's just here to watch Chiefs games and hang out. Like I don't think he really needs to do anything. And yeah, like he's spit top fire. He's the Dylon of the NBA.
Love it. Again, at Talk Hoops on Twitter, Zach Harper. I hope you enjoyed your vacation because the NBA is right around the corner, and I'm assuming you're going to be a busy man. Thank you, Zach. Enjoy your weekend.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right,
there
thanks,
you go,
Zach.
Zach Harper. Good stuff.
Incredible.
Damn, he has him above. We should have asked him. Is that all sports? Like, does he have him above Richard Sherman? I'm assuming. Does he? But I'm trying to think. Like Deion Sanders. Does he have him above?
Yeah, but
who are the biggest personalities?
Different. Like, I mean, Deion's got a big personality, but it's different. Like, Sheed brought an edge that was like he's more comparable to like Kevin Garnett.
What was the thing that he repeated over and over again? Not I'm just here so I won't get fined, but he had his own.
Ball don't lie. He originated Ball don't lie.
No, but he did something in a press conference where he said the same thing over and over again, like next question or ask them or some. I'll look it up in the break. That'll be the tease. We will do that. And what else are we doing at the bottom of the hour? Oh, that's right. We are doing biggest games of your week 3 in the NFL. Spoiler alert. It's not a very exciting slate, but we'll try to make it exciting.
That is not a great tease. I haven't been in this game long. I can tell you, you're not supposed to smash your tease like that.
I'm honest with the audience. We're going to make it exciting, though. So that's the tease. How can we make chicken soup out of chicken bleep?
Let's just
Falcons, Lions. Let's go.
Let's just send it to break.
The college slate is great, though, and we'll do that later in the show as well. All right, you're listening to Chris Watkins, Zakariah, Sactown Sports, 1140.